Greetings, people of YouTube, and today I'm doing another Transformers Rise of the Beasts review on the Transformers Studio Series Rise of the Beast number 100 Deluxe Class Bumblebee. You should all be expecting this if you saw my last review, wink wink. And whilst in that review I said that Battletrap is the only one I'm really looking forward to, I think Bumblebee here looked decent enough to the point where I considered buying him. And I'm pretty sure you all don't need an introduction to the character of Bumblebee. If you haven't heard of him, why are you watching a Transformers review? But I guess to give some more background info, just like Battletrap, this Bumblebee design comes from the upcoming Transformers Rise of the Beasts movie, which I'll admit does look a bit more promising after that second trailer. We'll talk about that and the figure in a little bit, but first off, let's take a closer look at the packaging. Front of the box, you can see a pretty cool artwork of Bumblebee, Transformers Rise of the Beast logo right here. On this side, the usual. On the back, also the usual, with another potential spoiler. I'll ignore that for now and flip the box over to this side, which has another artwork of Bumblebee. Top of the box, Transformers Rise of the Beast logo. And the bottom of the box, do I even need to explain it at this point? So yeah, now I'll show you my unboxing segment, and let's take a closer look at the figure. Yeah, I've already opened it, shut up. And now, here's the Transformers Studio Series 100 Rise of the Beast Bumblebee figure out of its packaging. Now, I gotta be honest, going into this figure, I really wasn't expecting much with it. Especially considering I already have this guy's size comparison coming later. But you know what? After handling this figure, even for just a few hours, it's been really difficult for me to put this thing down. I'll talk about the reasons why later in this video. But for now, let's take a closer look at his accessories. Just like Battletrap and other Studio Series figures, this guy also comes with his own backdrop accessory. Now, even after the second trailer, I still have no idea where this is supposed to be. So again, this might be a spoiler for the actual movie. And I'll just throw this off to the side right now. And let's focus on his two weapons. The first one that we get is this lemon-colored arm blade. I honestly have no idea why they didn't bother to paint this in silver. Maybe it's going to be accurate to the movie, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But for now, I think this looks pretty underwhelming. And the other weapon that we get is this arm cannon, which is casted in yellow plastic but painted black for some reason. But overall, the arm cannon is sculpted and, dare I say, painted very nicely. In terms of weapon integration, for the arm blade, you simply want to put it on his left side. Those two tabs will plug into those two peg holes, like so. And in terms of his cannon, you just simply plug that peg into his arm, like so. And here's how he looks like whilst holding both of his weapons. Before anyone asks, you can put his arm blade on his right side, but you can't put his arm cannon on his left arm. Which admittedly is kind of a shame considering I think this blade looks better in his right arm, but I think this looks cool regardless. And if for some reason you don't want to display Bumblebee with his weapons, simply turn him around. And you can peg each of the weapons into those two tabs. And I gotta say, this form of weapon storage actually works very well for Bumblebee. From certain angles, you really can't see his weapons at all. But to be fair, who's gonna display Bumblebee without his weapons? Nerd. So now that I've talked about his accessories, let's take a closer look at the figure itself. Now, if we just bring up Bumblebee's concept art and some images from the trailers, you can see that I think for a deluxe class figure, this guy actually captures a lot of those details that are present on the CGI model very well. Except for these doors, which in the trailer had a almost sort of quad-winged kind of look. This looks more like something along the lines of Bay vs. Bumblebee. I'm sure there's a possibility that this look will appear in the film, but couldn't they have just added a hinge joint maybe here in order to make this bottom piece flap down? Or maybe Hasbro were just lazy, I don't know. A genuine positive thing about these door rings, however, is that unlike older Studio Series Bumblebees, the actual windscreen section itself is a separate transparent plastic that attaches to the main door. Whereas on this version, it was a completely transparent plastic that was painted in yellow. This can cause for a pretty inconsistent look in the vehicle mode, which is why I'm glad they changed it for this figure. Talking about some more of the actual details though, such as this head sculpt, which I think overall looks pretty good, but it is missing some silver paint apps. And it is also missing an Autobot logo, but that is accurate to the trailer. Oh yeah, that is actually the reason why this review is postponed for so long. Not because I was procrastinating or my mouth hurt like hell, it's just so that I can wait for the second Rise of the Beast trailer to be released. Anyways, moving on. Taking a closer look at the overall body of the figure itself, it's not quite as detailed as the Dark of the Moon version, but I think that only comes down to the design, which is not as complicated as some of those Michael Bay designs, which I personally think is more appealing to the eyes. If I have to mention some highlights, I'd say this chest section looks really good, and the silver paint apps on the arms just look fantastic. But my actual favorite part about the figure is his stability and his posability. His tiny head is on a ball joint, but the range on this particular ball joint is actually excellent. Can look up that far, can look down kinda, and some very emotive head pivot. Quite like the detail for the next section, by the way. His shoulders move outward and they can rotate full 360 if this section doesn't block it. His door rings are on a hinge joint, so you can post them in whichever way you so choose. Single jointed elbow and an elbow swivel. Fairly tight waist rotation. His thighs are on a ball joint, so they can kick forward all the way, and he can kick back pretty much all the way. He can do the splits. Eye rotation that is a little too loose. Single joint at the knee. Single joint at the knee. And finally, his ankles can rotate and pivot to an excellent degree. And if you configure his foot like this, his ankles can hinge forward and back, but that looks a little weird. The amount of articulation on this figure may not seem much at first, but trust me, when you get this in hand, you're going to be able to get him in so many different poses. And especially so if you pose him with his two weapons. And the stability just makes him so much more fun to play with. And the posability is also amazing considering how small this thing is. Size comparison if you don't get the cue. Firstly, here he is next to my previous review, the Transformers Studio Series Rise of the Beasts Battle Trap. Another one of my favorite deluxe class figures. Here we have the Transformers Studio Series Bumblebee RC. They look good together, don't they? A regular 6-inch scale figure, the Marvel Legends Mr. Knight. And finally, the most important size comparison for this review, my only other Bumblebee figure, the Transformers Studio Series Dark of the Moon Bumblebee. And whilst this guy might look more impressive aesthetic-wise, this figure absolutely beats it in terms of fun factor, at least in my opinion. And now that I've covered the entirety of the robot mode, let's transform this figure, which with the power of editing, I can easily do in just... There you go! Meanwhile... All jokes aside, here we have Bumblebee transformed into his very cool looking and officially licensed 1977 Camaro alt mode. And I gotta say, not only is this a really cool alt mode for Bumblebee, it also serves as a very nice reference to the very first alt mode that we ever see Bumblebee obtain in a live action movie. And coincidentally, that design is also the first ever Studio Series figure released. And this is number 100. So yeah, I guess everything does come full circle, huh? Taking a closer look at the alt mode here, I think it looks fairly accurate to the very brief glimpse of him that we saw in the trailer. However, I'm pretty sure that these roof stripes are inaccurate, but TBH, I think this is a cooler look anyway, so that's not a problem for me. And to be fair, the rest of the car mode does look pretty spot on, save for these arm kibble, which don't really bother me that much either. I mean, it could be worse. And just like Battle Stripe, I think my favorite angle of this alt mode has got to be the dead front. The beefy looking bumper along with the roll cage makes this alt mode look slightly more war ready. Not to forget, in terms of weapon storage for the arm blade, simply peg this tab into this peg hole underneath the car mode, like so. There you go. And as far as the cannon goes, the instruction manual tells you to plug this yellow tab piece into this part of the car, like so. And whilst this doesn't look too bad, I actually do have a better method in order to store this cannon. And all you want to do is flip Bumblebee over, take off the blade for a moment, and you're gonna see a gaping hole. You simply just want to plop this in, and now all that is left to do is to tap this blade back in. And there we have all of the weapons stored underneath the figure. Honestly, I can't even tell that there are weapons stored on this figure. And despite the arm cannon haphazardly hanging below his belt, he actually rolls very, very nice. There was a genuine accident, but this figure is okay. And I think that is all for this mode. You know what this means? Size comparisons! Firstly, here he is next to Battle Trap, which I already did this and the other comparison in the previous video. In retrospect, I probably shouldn't have shown this Bumblebee figure in the last video. Here he is next to RC, Mr. Knight. And finally, the most important comparison, the Studio Series Dark of the Moon Bumblebee in his stealth mode. I accidentally glued an integral piece to the transformation. Please don't ask me how that happened. I hit myself as well. And I gotta say, I think my point from their robot mode still applies here in their alt modes. This figure looks a little more impressive aesthetic-wise, but this guy is just a lot more fun. And that all concludes my review for the Transformers Studio Series Rise of the Beasts number 100 Deluxe Class Bumblebee figure. Overall, I had a lot of fun handling this figure. If there is a word that I would use to describe this figure, it would be fun. Fun to play around with, fun to transform back and forth, and it's pretty fun to look at. I highly recommend getting this figure, especially considering he's in a deluxe class price point. And I would like to sincerely thank you all who watched this video from the beginning to the end. It really touches my heart when a person that I don't even know actually clicks on a video of mine. And if you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like and share this video with a friend. And of course, if you enjoy this type of content, I encourage you to subscribe, as I actually am thinking of uploading slightly more consistently. And yeah, I guess that'll be all from me. And hopefully I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye!
Bumblebee, stop lubricating the man.